Mr. Chairman, we are live. The floor is yours.
Okay, we'll call to order at 7:06. Roll call.
Sheldon Cohn.
Todd Spurl.
Rick Poland.
Jill Ingber.
Chris Kobieski.
Dale Linden.
All right, we will move on to approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
I would like to point out that we have an amended agenda different than the one that was originally circulated, and that's the one I would suggest be adopted.
Mr. Chair, basically what's happened is we're adding an amendment to the agenda to allow the priority list to be discussed tonight.
Okay, so we just need a motion to
We need a
approve.
motion to amend the agenda to allow the priority list to be discussed tonight, a second and a vote.
Okay,
So move.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, moving on to approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Todd, would you like to
I just,
offer a correction?
yeah, there's a, somewhere, there we go. I made a motion to approve plans on page 6, bottom page 6, and then I also seconded it.
Okay.
Don't think I should be doing that.
I'm pretty sure you didn't.
Yeah, I probably did one of those two, and
Okay.
then somebody else picked up the other.
Does anybody have a recollection for that?
I know I made motions, but I think that it was struck.
Gail, do you think you could have made the motion for that and then Todd could have seconded it?
Which motion?
And then
Sure.
I'll have that corrected?
Okay.
On page
Okay. Thank you. Our minutes taker takes quite extensive notes, so if that's all she got wrong, that's pretty good.
the one that stood out to me.
Off
So,
of her head.
all righty.
All right, can I get a motion
where we should be parking as well.
100%.
Yeah, okay, that's all I have.
I live on Concord, so I use that road all the time for egress and ingress, and getting to that stop sign can be backed up and getting out of there. I did go into the parking lot. You're the only parking lot because you're on the corner that comes in off of Concord, whereas the building to your south, you're facing and, you're wondering, is there a driveway coming in? They come in through the MDOT location and their drive comes in and then there's bumpers and so on. So, my concern to you is, one, are you redoing the lot when you're doing your building plan and because it's in pretty rough shape right now, and, just making sure because, as you said, there's a fire route on both sides of the street, but it doesn't stop anybody from parking there. And hopefully they're not parking that close to the stop signs because then it's really tough to try to get out. I don't have a problem with the number of spaces that you need based upon the kind of clientele that you have, that if it's a younger child coming with a parent for, braces, mom or dad or brother or sister are driving, and if it's an adult, they're coming on their own. Generally, there aren't two cars, so I don't see the need for two. But I think one of the points that Jill raised is trying to get us to beautify our buildings and our sites on Woodward and be more than that 1950s building that's sitting there and having a great interior. And so that's why I ask as to whether you're redoing the parking lot or doing anything with landscaping. Again, it's really, really old, and I'd like to see the building look, like a new turnover building, just like the dental office farther up the street, totally redid that and made it look better. And as far as lighting is concerned for neighbors, I wonder what your hours might be and whether, if you put lights up, is it only going to be while you're basically open and not lighting up your parking lot when you're not there?
Sure. All those are legitimate concerns. I mean, it's in my best interest to make it as aesthetically pleasing from the street side and approachable as possible. All that, in all the other locations that we have, that was always a primary goal, and we'll continue to do that here as well. The engineer and the contractor who's sitting behind me, I mentioned at the beginning, maybe don't redo the parking lot. And the first thing he said, no, we're redoing the parking lot. So that decision was taken out of my hands, apparently. So yeah, I mean, we're in the same boat. I mean, whatever, the investing in myself and this building will benefit the city and benefit my practice. So I think we're on the same team on that.
No other concern.
Hank, are there no parking signs adjacent to the building
On Concord,
on Concord, and how far do those extend?
that whole stretch right there. So
There's only one on each, there's only one P with a line through it. No parking, just this
Yeah,
P with a line through it on each side of the street.
Right, and that's actually, that is no parking, and that is for the length of that block. So if there's a situation where that was the case, then somebody would just call public safety, and there's somebody parking in no parking zone. The situation that Gail describes is the exact reason those signs are there. If it's something that, again, that wouldn't be up to Dr. Gross, but that's something that I can also have public safety look into as far as signage. But that wouldn't be anything that the planning commission could direct.
Yeah, can you look into
Absolutely.
making sure our
Happy to-
signs are
yeah,
up
happy
and,
to make sure proper signage is out there.
okay.
I wondered whether it might be something, but it would take away parking spaces in this MDOT space, is whether you opened up from the MDOT space into your lot from Woodward so that you didn't have to come through.
Can't do that,
You can't, okay.
without an MDOT approval.
Well, okay, the only reason I say that is MDOT's given approval for every other business going south because that's the only way they can get into them.
Right, this has an alternative way to get into it.
I just thought it would be easier for traffic flow, and if you didn't get one there, you could come into it. That was my only concern, is
The other
losing it.
concern with that too is that if you have an in or an out on that right of way there, that takes away 3 parking places.
Correct.
Minimum.
Right,
It does seem though, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, that's it.
I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. Does seem though that the high volume's gonna be up front anyways.
Yeah,
They,
they're gonna
the
park.
stuff that's coming in on the side is employees for the most part, right? And then everything's up front, so it stays away from the residential side.
That would be the goal,
Yeah, I mean, it's not 100% guaranteed, but
right.
based on how it's set up and, the way they're looking at the front door being there, that's what, if I was a client, that's where I'd park.
I mean, to that, Corey, if you put in Waze or Google, which most patients do, it's gonna spit you up in front of the building. And it's, for them to go wrap around to go there in Concord would be challenging. I think you're gonna see most,
The spaces are there,
yeah.
but I think the reality is that people are gonna be
Right.
in and out off the Woodward right away.
Yeah, if I may, from Iden Calvet with Calvet Engineering, business address is 31333.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Yes.
Yeah.
They can't hear you.
Iden Calvet with Calvet Engineering, business address 31333 Southfield Road, Suite 250 in Beverly Hills. From a traffic perspective, most of the patients are going to come in, they're going to bypass Concord anyway, because they're going to look past Concord for parking along the front of the building. When they don't see it there, they're going to continue along that right-of-way process to get back to Concord. And this is the main difference between Dr. Gross's property and the other property across the street. Yeah. The property across the street, they check all the parking. When they don't see anything, Concord is right there. Rather than continuing to go down Woodward, they turn down Concord and look for a solution that way. He'll have the reverse problem. Most of his patients, if they do enter that area and don't see parking, would end up going further down that right-of-way parking. And actually, there's a drive approach right after the space is shown, and then there's more parking right there, so that that's where they would look for overflow parking, as opposed to on Concord. Because they would, in order to get back, they've got to make double Michigan left to get back to Concord.
Or make a right and go down Lincoln, come down York, and then come up to,
Yeah,
Concord.
that's not gonna happen.
no.
Park in front of Hank's house.
Yeah,
You can put up a sign telling them where Hank's house.
I think everybody knows.
Okay, the second thing I just want to make sure you understand that it is not the city's responsibility to maintain MDOT's parking, and that, we don't want you calling the city asking for the potholes to be filled and that sort of thing. Certainly, the city has helped out in the past, but it is MDOT's responsibility.
So typically, and I think this is what Rick's getting at, is that it's MDOT's responsibility, and in the event that they abdicate their responsibility, if you want that park plowed, you're gonna be the one to plow it.
That's fine.
So Hank, what are we looking for? Is it a motion with,
You're looking for a motion to approve the site plan, allowing Dr. Gross to open his business under the approved conditions and the approved plans that he submitted this evening. You need a second and a motion, and then Dr. Gross can proceed to his building permit status, which will go, because it's all interior, it'll go right to the building department.
I would move that we approve the plan as presented, including the parking deviation specifically. That's my motion.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
All yours.
Would you like to
appreciate
see-
it.
You can have more copies of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, moving on to item 6, the priority list.
The next order of business that we have, Mr. Chair, is the priority list. I wanted to go over this because, hold on, let me do this. Okay, so basically what we're looking at while I find this is we're looking at the start of the priority list. The priority list, which I will find here in about 2 seconds. So basically what happens is that we've gone ahead and we've made a master plan. So now we have to figure out how we're going to work on achieving the goals for the master plan. We spent a year figuring out what those are gonna be. So now what we've done is I've given you a list that you have at your places, which is here, that has 9 items that are ranked currently in low, medium, and high priority. These are 9 items out of the 50 that I have up on the board behind you. And the reason for that is that it's unreasonable to expect that you're gonna accomplish 50 items. It's even less reasonable to expect that you're gonna happen within a year. The master plan is like a 10-year goal for you to accomplish things. And you're not gonna accomplish all of these things within 10 years, and some of them don't even come within the purview of the planning commission, but they're dispersed to other departments in order to facilitate moving Huntington Woods forward. So what I've done is I've picked some things that came as a suggestion, and this does not mean that you can't move them around. It does not mean that you can take some out. It doesn't mean that you can't add others. What I've given you is just a framework for what you have, for what you can start with. And it doesn't mean that you can't adjust it during the course of the year. So in the high category, because everybody throughout that seemed to express a huge interest in it, and I know that the public has an interest in it as well, is the Safe Routes to School. So Safe Routes to School means that every kid that walks down 11 Mile Road, goes to Berkeley High School, has to cross somewhere. The reality of it is they don't go up all the way to Woodward and cross at that light. They don't go all the way across down to Coolidge and cross that way. And I know my own kids played dodge 'em, trying to get across 11 Mile here. And what they're looking at is a study with data and information that we would be bringing back to you. We would ask the city commission, should that be one of the items that the planning commission wants to take action on? And we would ask them to facilitate, meaning fund, a study in some way, shape, or form to give you data, empirical data, as to what we could do with that. So what does that look like in real life? It looks like maybe creating crosswalks. It looks like perhaps more than crosswalks, perhaps traffic lights. It looks like even including perhaps the push buttons, kids crossing, that type of thing. When you push the button when you want to get across and the light comes on and stops traffic and people come by. That's part of a study and what we'll be looking at in options for what the planning commission would then recommend to the city commission to approve. Along the way there, I would I would acquire budget documents, cost estimates, and that type of thing as far as what it is. But we'd have a basic plan in place, and a lot of it you've already done in the master plan when you have the documents that are showing where it would be likely that we would go ahead and place those. So that's the Safe Routes to School in a nutshell. Another thing that might be high on the priority list is to explore stormwater runoff standards, whether it's on private or public property for new houses or anything like that, containing their own stormwater on site, whether or not we decide to do a road diet with Berkeley on 11 Mile, and maybe explore some use of the extra space for some way for stormwater management. That may be possible as well. But again, all this is going to require study, documentation, and information brought to you. And then other is to adopt and recommend the resolution describing the needed improvements to Woodward. Imagine that, we just talked about that tonight and how it is. And ideally, a lot of the communities have already explored the possibilities with MDOT. A lot of the communities that have had, like the big buildings on Woodward that are up in Birmingham, where they've gone ahead and they've done that, that's part of the thing that they've done is they've made it as a requirement that they redo the landscaping, they redo the spots in Birmingham. The thing is that with Birmingham, it was a little bit more ripe for development, and I'm not saying it's not ripe for development here, but these are all individually owned. The city has no land there to donate to the cause for that. But adopting and recommending a resolution for Woodward brings to the forefront a recommendation that you see, you're gonna recommend the adoption and everything to the city commission. The city commission makes a resolution, that resolution goes to MDOT along with Royal Oak, Birmingham, Berkeley, and they get all the Woodward communities, and maybe MDOT decides that this is a project that needs to happen. I was told by MDOT that they have nothing in the pipe for the next 10 years for our location. So, that's where we're at, so this might be something that's high on the list that could be taken care of fairly easily, and may get us some bang for the buck for that. And for that, we'd be grateful, but that, again, that's gonna have to be one of the things that we're gonna have to pick. In the medium category, one of the things was rezone the southwest corner of 11 Mile and Woodward to transitional district. That's the TD zoning. Currently, the Thrifty Flower Store is in the business district. What TD does is it makes it more consistent with Woodward, like we've discussed in the past, because all the rest of Woodward is TD, okay? And then it also gives them more options. Should somebody come to them with a nice offer on their property, they have more choices as to what can go there. So it makes it more beneficial for them as well. And in medium, because it always will be happening, is to continue to research anti-monotony standards for designs, be it commercial or be it residential. To check with other communities regularly and see what's happening. And if so, then we can, maybe address some of those. Now, there would be enhanced pedestrian crossings throughout the city, not just on 11 Mile. Are we doing the best that we can do for our Scotia crossings? Where are we with crossing south into Oak Park? Where are we with the relationship to the freeway on that side? How about Coolidge and Lincoln? These other things, which we do have, again, in the Coolidge and Lincoln one will be addressed in the Safe Routes to School if we choose to tackle that one. Because these are things that our kids, have every single day, as they walk to school, whether it's North, whether it's Berkeley High School. There's a whole bunch of different things, and I know even, CASA, in Oak Park. I mean, there's a lot that has to happen with that. So enhancing pedestrian crossings could be real important. Another important component, lower but still important, is to develop visual guidelines for community character, pattern books, if you will. Things that what we're looking for, things that we can put out into a document and have you approve the document, and then we can publish that as far as on the website. We can actually have copies available for our designers and for our contractors that come in. This is what we expect, so that we have, in conjunction with the anti-monotony regulations, we've got some information out there for them other than here's the zoning ordinance. Then develop guidelines, books for contractors. Again, that's kind of, I piggyback the two together, because community character is helped by the designs of the projects that we as the planning commission approve, so that has to be important. Another thing that was low on the list but is rapidly gaining importance is electric charging stations. And we're looking currently, we would look for grant money to see what's available, whether there's charging stations available for City Hall, whether there's charging stations available for the rec department and that. And we would be looking towards grant money for those. But the reality is, it's time to do things like that. So, and again, this does not mean we're gonna take on 9 things at once, because that's just not gonna happen. But if you have other things that you did, I I have the list of all these things right behind you. There's 50 of them. And then this is where I pulled them directly from, was the action items that we have for the planning commission. So when we review at the end of the year, well, what did we accomplish? There has to be something that's accomplished or well into the works with that. And that would be, that would be something that would be really good. Also, at the 5-year, when we revise the master plan, what have we done? What can we take out? What can we, what additions do we have to do? Do we have to take a look at another department? And then in 10 years, I would expect to make a really good dent in a lot of this. So that's kind of where we're at for this. If anybody has any questions about the process, how it works, you're going to settle on perhaps a couple things to start off with. And then you may want to do this, and this is something that you certainly can do, is you may want to take a look at this. You may want to take this home. You may want to come back next month and say, I've looked at this and I think this is a really good idea. I'm not so sure that this particular 1X is a medium. And this one that you got on Lohink really should be a high. So, I mean, once you decide on that, then you kind of get an idea of where you want to go. And what I would do is I would pick perhaps one high, one medium, one low, and see what we can do. And it's also not a bad idea to take some of the easier ones and to knock them out, because it's all on the list. So with that in mind, I'm open for your thoughts.
From the special meeting that we had last month, or it was this month, because it's not March 1st yet, tomorrow, one of the suggestions I had when we were talking about housing and developers and things like that, and seniors staying in place, is doing some kinds of programs or information about universal design. And I wonder whether that's been put into the plan before it goes to the commissioners, and it's not anywhere on here.
It's not anywhere on here because this is the priority list of what we're looking to do to accomplish first off the list. I have a copy of the final master plan based on all the, everything that was approved by the planning commission, including the suggestions, and that document I don't have yet.
Okay.
So I do not have a final yet, but it is approved. The only thing we have left to do is we're swapping out one picture at the request of a commissioner, and that's it. The document's approved.
Okay.
So, and it was approved with those suggestions, and they'll incorporate that into it.
Okay.
So, with having said that, Gail, some of those suggestions are things that could be incorporated into the design guidelines, books for contractors, perhaps design guidelines for community character, that we want to be friendly for senior citizens, so we want to have universal design. Those are things that, while they may be low, doesn't make them any less important. It just means that there's not a mad rush to do that. Whereas with perhaps, and I'm just saying that the safe routes to school, where we have kids going to school every day. So I mean, that's kind of the thought process in the placement of these. And again, I did not change the placement of these off of that. What I did was that I transposed some key things off of that onto a list. Does not mean you're married to this list.
Sheldon?
Yeah, thank you. How many of these items require a consultant or an engineer?
I'm not sure yet, because I have to figure out which ones you're gonna pick. The safe routes to school is going to require some funding from the city commission, so I have to have a document to send to them with an idea of what the budget is, and that, what that's basically gonna do is it's gonna put it on my plate. Hey, look, they wanna study this, this is gonna cost this, and this, and then that has to go to the commission for that. Once they have that, and we've discussed it, and you have an idea of what you want, then I can have an actual idea of what is ballpark gonna cost. They could go out for an RFP should the city commission decide they wanna go ahead with it.
I mean, it seems to me the safe routes, the stormwater runoff, probably at least something is going to have to be addressed in terms of the needed improvements on Woodward. I don't know if we'll need anything for rezoning. I'm anti-monotony. It seems to me some of these are design professionals and some of them are engineering things.
Well, I will tell you that, yeah, you're gonna run into that on a lot of it. And
Yeah.
part of the reason is that, yeah, what we wanna do is a lot.
Okay, but I'm saying that, and from your comments about, from MDOT, that they got nothing really that they're talking about for 10 years, adopting and recommending a resolution describing needed improvements for Woodward seems kind of pointless. I mean, to me, in terms of things that we have a chance to address and might be helpful. My own view is that the safe routes to school overlaps considerably with enhanced pedestrian crossings. I mean, I'm willing to be convinced to the contrary, but I don't see a problem internal to the city involved with crossings. There's all kinds of stop signs and there's crossing guards around the school and that sort of stuff. So internal to the city, I don't, in my view, that's not a particularly, that has little priority to me, where the safe routes to school, and that may be an artificial distinction to some extent, but that doesn't move me particularly. The other thing that I would like the commission to consider putting on the list in some fashion, we've been talking, I mean, as long as I've been on and off the planning commission and the zoning appeals stuff, they've been talking about, reconfiguring the city campus. Okay, are we going to do something about that? Are we not going to do something about that? You need, it seems to me you need substantial development consultant in order to present something that an investor might consider in terms of making a financial investment that has a reasonable return on it. And we've been talking about, bulldozing City Hall and putting city offices, multi-story building that has residents on top. And we've been talking about redoing the public safety building because if it was owned by any private individual, it would have been condemned a long time ago. And a lot of stuff like that. I would like to see something other than conversation going on about, I didn't even know what steps to take, but I would like to see something concrete that we can address to put in front of the city commission, or at least start work on something like that. Because we've been talking about it for 20 years.
Well, it looks like on this list, that stuff was a high priority. Complete a needs assessment of the city campus area facilities along 11 Mile.
That's already well underway.
Okay. All
That's
right.
done by the city commission, that's ordered by the city commission. So the planning commission isn't going to be the ones to decide whether or not this area is rebuilt. That's gonna be a city commission
Okay.
decision because it's city
So
property.
we don't have a role in that.
You will have a role when they bring in the building or proposal for that. Right now, there's been loose conversation as far as what might happen here. And, again, like you alluded to, Sheldon, the numbers have to punch for all parties concerned.
Yeah.
So-
But I've heard the conversation for so long, and I just.
Yeah, and again, it's gonna be conversation until somebody brings us, and I think Commissioner Olsman has said, at public meetings in the past, somebody's gotta bring us an offer. But if one biggest step that we've done is we put it in the master plan, because that lets people know that, okay, we could be open for business for the right offer. But we have to get that offer. So once we put it out there that we're there and we're ready and we're looking at it, we still have other steps that we're taking too. We're exploring right now associate memberships with the Main Street for Oakland County and availing ourselves of some opportunities that they may have. Main Street, Oakland County is not just for downtowns. They do have other things that are available. I think if you remember Justin Sprague, who was here from CIB Planning, spoke to us about some of the opportunities and some of the fundings and grant fundings that may be available. For example, if we were to take this property, there may be some brownfield credits available for it. Why would there be brownfield credits available? Because you have a DPW yard, so there may be contaminants in the ground. Brownfield credits help with something like that.
If you're telling this, that at this point, this is off our plate,
I'm telling you
Then-
that as soon as the master
Yeah.
plan hits the city commission and we have a document, by sending this master plan to the city commission, you have said, this is what you want them to take a look at. This is the direction that the public and the planning commission feels that the city should go in the future. And then to act on that, they're gonna have to be, like you say, there's gotta be funding in order to do that.
Okay.
So if there's any additional studies or anything else that has to be done, somebody's gonna have to pay for it.
do you want action on this tonight, or you just want us
No,
to come
I
back?
want you to consider this. You can come back to me next month with 9 different items. But what I'd like to do is establish next month a consensus so that we can start working on something, because I don't want to start working on a 9-item planning commission meeting in August and expect it to be done by the end of the year. It's not gonna happen. So I wouldn't wanna take 3 months to debate this. I'd like to pick 1 or 2 items and start moving on it so that we can at least get the feet on the ground running, and then if you wanna alter some of the other ones, that's fine. But I mean, pick some things that you think are most important, whatever, and then when you think about it, and you come back next month, let's talk about it, let's put it there, and at that point, I would definitely like some direction as to what the planning commission thinks that we should do, so that I can then let the city commission and the city
Okay.
manager know.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Looking for permission, Dad. So, here's what I'd like to recommend. I mean, this is what I do with my clients all day long. We've got a lot of, we're trying not to eat the elephant whole here. And I appreciate the examples, short list that you gave us. And I think we all need to look at this list. I'd like to see this list sorted out by the priority all the way through, just refigure it, high priority all the way down. And then what I would do is...
You're talking about the 49
Yeah.
item list?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what I would do is do an impact effort matrix and say, where does it, from a high thing, what's the impact on the community or the area, and what would be the effort? Effort being, we'd have to hire external consultants, engineers, it would have to, a lot of money, or low effort, meaning this is a win-win. And I would rank order them that way, and then I'd come back for the next month and give you my top 5 for each area, and then we can just discuss it. And I would imagine there'd probably be high overlap amongst this group.
Well, that's another thing that I can do too. If you would like, I can purify this list, if you will, by what planning commission would have a role in. For example, parks and stuff like that, that would be part of the Parks and Rec master plan and the recreation
be
department. I can pull out so that you can have a distilled list with the rankings that were put on there through the course of the master plan, so that we have that information. And I can present that to you via email, and then you can go ahead and come in next month with your ideas based on that, and then vote on it. Listen, you guys could come up with the same 9 things, you could
It
come up
would
with 9
probably be a lot of
different things.
overlap.
But I'm guessing that if you have 9 people taking a look at it, that 7 of you are gonna have the same things on a couple of your lists.
Hank, is it safe to say that the priority list, the priority that we have on this list here is the average of what we all inputted?
It's the average of what you all inputted plus what the public
Okay.
inputted.
Perfect.
So the reality of it is that in a perfect world, it's not gonna be what Todd wants, what Hank wants, what,
Why not?
well, because they know us, Todd.
We get one vote.
Because I think that the reality of it is that,
I get you.
you get the public, and the public has this, and the public, went through an awful lot of public meetings and a lot of public input. So I think that it's important to consider this, that while this is what everybody's list has been distilled to, now we have to pick some things to do something. Now we have to get off the schneid here, and I think that that's it. And I don't think your idea is a bad one, to distill the list down and send it to everybody. I have no problem doing that for you.
Just be easier to read, I think.
My only, I won't be here next month. I know I expressed that to you before, because the meeting falls right in the beginning of spring break for Berkeley schools. So is that something I can give some input prior to the meeting?
I think that what you could do, Chris, is you certainly could send your document back.
Okay.
My goal would be to get this done in short order and get it out to you, and then
Okay.
your document would come back. I would distribute it, to all the members, and see what it is. So it's not that, you're very rarely gonna have a meeting where everybody is here. So that doesn't mean that your voice doesn't get to be heard. It means that we just have to get some communication. So there would be a communication from you as to what you felt that our key things were. You might not give me 9, you might give me 3. Look, these are my 3 things that I really feel strongly about.
All right.
Gail may have something entirely different.
So our next meeting's the 28th.
Our next meeting is the 4th Monday of next month.
I won't be here either.
Gail?
If we're gonna get a revised list, you'll email it to us, and then is it your goal that if we picked 9 and ranked them, the top 3 would be high, middle would be medium, and so on? And if we ranked them like that and you took all of the rankings that we had in their numbers and gave 3, 2, 1, we would be able to compile all of our lists together to find out what numbers we came up with.
Yeah, that would kind of be the goal in some format like that. The deal is that you can't say that, okay, everybody feels these are the most important, and you get 3 high-ranking things that require $100,000 worth of work
Right.
and an insane amount of time and
That's where the
development
effort
with-
comes
with-
in.
with consultants. That's not gonna work. What'll happen is you'll pick one that's gonna be important, and as a result, what's gonna happen is that you'll find the one and you'll say, okay, fine, this is gonna take an awful lot of work, but while this is going on, or if it's something where the city commission says, yes, you're right, we do need a consultant in order to do this, then while that's going on and while there's a gathering process, even like in the master plan where we didn't have a meeting on it for a month, in that month, that doesn't mean that we can't knock out a low priority one. There's different ways to do that, so I think that, but hearing what your criteria and what you're looking for is very important.
All right, I'm gonna add to Sheldon's comment that I'm gonna push very hard for next steps on the city campus, considering the condition of our buildings, and that one building is currently condemned that we still use, and we have a tent as another building. So Hank, I will be looking to you on what our ability is to push that to the city commission, or have the city commission push it back down to us to manage next steps.
I would think that what has to happen here is that you're gonna run into, loggerheads with, do we wanna develop the whole thing, or do we wanna put some money into the public safety building? There's really no doubt that the public safety building is in the worst shape of any of the remaining buildings for what it's tasked to do. Realistically, do we need a new city hall for the 6 people that work here and the occasional meetings that we have here? Well, we could certainly use some upgrades, but do we need it? No, but we're having people living at the public safety buildings, and there's improvements that have to be
Hank,
had.
those are details.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point, I mean, you could name probably 1,000 different details in terms of redoing the
Absolutely.
campus. Okay, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Rick. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, but
What
I
we're
think
talking
you
about
are, though, because you
is
have to get.
finding out how to analyze and prioritize those things.
You
show
prioritize
some
them the way that
progress.
you feel with them, and then I will get my direction from the city manager and from the city commission at that point in time. If you want to send a resolution, if you want to send something to the city commission urging something to be done, then we'll send that. Bob, who, unfortunately couldn't be here this evening, is your commission liaison. So he'll get the minutes for this, he'll get everything, and he'll be able to weigh in on it as well. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know what better pipeline you can have to the city commission than the mayor.
Yeah.
So yes, the answer
Teamwork.
is that your voices will be heard. Whether or not there's a direction that they can or will take to this, you can put it out there all day long, but unless somebody comes to the table on the other side, it's not gonna matter. So that's kind of where we're at. And I mean, realistically, there's a lot to be said for, doing just a big renovation to the public safety building, and there's a lot to be said for doing the whole development. It's just whether or not you can get somebody to come to the table that makes the numbers work, because I can assure you that as far as the public safety building, nobody's gonna come and give us that money for that public safety building unless I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not seeing that as happening. So that's gonna have to be internally financed. So, the bottom line is they're all great ideas, it's all fabulous concepts. I think that MKSK and their crew did a really nice job with it. And the bottom line is that it's gotta be paid for in some way, shape, or form.
So, next steps are identify what the priorities are,
Yes,
and then after that, we will look at what items will require some level of consulting,
absolutely.
cost, that sort of thing, and then start addressing the items.
Absolutely, and it may be as simple as a letter or a resolution from the planning commission to the city commission saying, expressing that the planning commission, the city of Huntington Woods, has expressed a great interest in pursuing a project for upgrading the public safety department, and to the extent that the planning commission can play a part in that, that they would like to do so.
Okay. Any other comments? Do we have to take any action on this?
No, no, no,
Just-
this is, at this point, this is informational. Next month, we're gonna take some action because you're gonna develop the list.
Okay,
And then at that point in time, I would like a vote for, this is our list, this is what we're doing. Right now, this is too raw.
okay.
Okay, you're gonna, I thought I heard you say that you were gonna
Distill
bring it
it
up,
down.
distill the list
Yeah.
down to that stuff that's within our purview.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll send out some sort of communication to
Yes,
us?
it will not be this week, it'll more likely be next week.
Okay,
That's fine.
and then a friendly reminder a couple days ahead of time that everyone should
Absolutely.
come up with their priorities.
You call that friendly, what he sends us?
Right. What am I, just a reminder?
All right, so we'll close item 6 and move on to item 7, matter of election of officer secretary.
Yes, typically what happens is we elect a chairman and a vice chairman, which for the last couple has been, Rick has been gracious enough to be our vice chair, and Mike has been gracious enough to be our chair. We're also now required to have a secretary. So what does a secretary do? Really, in Huntington Woods, they don't do anything, but it's required by the Planning Enabling Act. So we need to elect somebody to do that. It doesn't mean you're taking minutes. It still means that our minutes are taken the way that they are. It does mean that once the minutes are approved, a copy will be given to you, and you as a secretary will sign the copy of the minutes. That's really what it means. So once the minutes are approved or altered or whatever, then that's what will happen, but I need a secretary. So I need a motion to nominate for secretary, and I need a second. The person needs to go ahead and accept the nomination, and then a vote has to happen to confirm that person.
I
Motion to
feel like
nominate
everyone's
Blake?
looking at me.
Blake.
Somebody seems a little guilty.
You wanna know how much it pays?
With the caveat that, you know, nothing will change and that the minutes will still be recorded as they are,
Yeah.
I would be willing to sign off on the minutes, sure.
Okay, I'll nominate Jill.
There you go.
Okay, so,
We need a second?
We need a second.
I'll second that nomination.
We need an acceptance?
Oh, I accept.
all right, so all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
So is this where you now tell Jill that we're gonna change it up and she's taking notes the whole
I
time?
wouldn't do that to her.
I should
li-
bring my
I-
laptop.
I live too close to her.
Yeah. Good point.
So I'll do that. The next item then, Mr. Chair, is a master plan update discussion. I alluded to it earlier. The master plan is completed. We are waiting for you all did a tremendous job with it. We're waiting for one photo swap to take place. And then that document that will go out. As soon as that document is distributed, I have 63-day review period. It goes to Berkeley, it goes to Royal Oak, it goes to Oak Park. I can't distribute it until I have the final copy. So when that happens, that's when our technical review period will take place. And then it goes to Oakland County for review as well during that time period. Assuming there's no major complications or changes, our master plan is looking at adopted early this summer.
Okay. Anything else?
I do not.
Okay. We'll close that item and move to public participation. Seeing no public, we will close public participation and move to adjourn the meeting. Get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Not opposing that one.